First, I'm going to tell you a story after I tell you what is the most stressful thing you can do or have done to you. But I have to tell you a story or two to build into that. One time I was watching television, and my wife calls the remote control the clicker. And I appear to be the fairly normal male, and when commercials come on, I'm clicking and looking to see what else might be on. So as I'm doing this, on comes on an interview type show. There used to be Phil Donahue, and then God knows. It's not difficult to find some interviewer, some program, and God only knows what the interviewer, the guest, the subject matter might be. Anyhow, the gist of this interview was, and the guest was a 100-year-old man. It was his birthday that day. And the idea was how did you live to be this ripe old age? And so when the interviewer asked this older gentleman that question, he said, it's because I've never had an argument with anyone in my life. Well, the interviewer absolutely did not understand how that could possibly be true. And so he asked him again. He said, did you really say the reason you've lived to be 100 is because you've never had an argument with someone? He said, that's right. Well, now he knows he really said it, but he just doesn't get it. So he said, now listen, 100 years times 365 days times 24 hours times 60 minutes, you mean to tell me in all that time you've never had an argument with anyone in your life? He said, that's right. Well, the interviewer actually started to get mad. His posture changed, his color changed, and basically yelled at the old man, you can't tell me that in 100 years you've never had an argument with someone. And the old man said, you may be right. Okay, but now I want to ask you, what's the moral of my story? Truth, I really would...
Agree with someone. Surrender. Let it go.
Right, and while I agree with it, which triggered, your comments triggered that story, is I want to throw it back at you and say, when was the last time you really disagreed with someone and you said, you may be right? And my challenge to you, let me just finish a little bit. My challenge is to you, I don't know you, but I know, is that the probability is that you are invested in a certain belief and you can't just let it go. When the wisdom, if you at least appreciate the 100-year-old man, was, indeed, what was the point of getting into the argument? So let me just continue. I promise to come back to you, sir. Another interesting fable to add to this is the story of a man and his father in a third world setting going off to market, and they have to travel a long distance. They load their donkey, and they both start to walk at first, and they're going to pass through many small villages before they get to the central market. And as they pass through the first village, they hear people comment, you know, you'd think one of them would ride that donkey. They've got a long distance to go. So the father puts his son on the donkey, and they proceed, and they get to the next village, and someone says, isn't that something, the boy riding the donkey making his older father walk? So the boy gets off, the father gets on. They get to the next village, and someone remarks, you think they'd both ride that donkey? So they both get on the donkey. They get to the next village, and someone says, look at that poor donkey. All loaded down with the goods, the father and son. So they both get off the donkey, and the son ties the front legs of the donkey together. The father ties the back legs of the donkey together, and they carry the donkey through the next village. Okay, what's the moral of that story?
Don't be so gullible. Everybody has a different point of view.
Right, everybody has a different point of view. You can't please everybody. I wished, in fact, in my experience, you guys could really practice that. Because, again, in my experience, is that if I were to say to you which villager's right, in fact, let me do that for you. Which villager was right?
All of them were right.
There's no
All right,
answer.
but that's an unusual response. Usually what people do is none of them. But what I would hope you would understand is all of them. But here's what will get a scientist crazy. That can't be true. How could they all be true? And so what I'm going to get to is this idea of different experience, different realities. And so peace of mind comes When you realize you'll never have it figured out, you'll never be in complete control, and here's the kicker, it doesn't matter.